The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it changed everything. Your wife's been screwing my husband for 6 months. Thought you should know. Andrea Voss. I stared at my phone screen in the darkness of our bedroom, listening to Mara's steady breathing beside me. 20 years of marriage. And this is how I find out. Not through tears or confessions or lipstick on collars, but through a stranger's midnight text bomb. My name is Charlie Gage, and I'm 42 years old. I fix computers for a living, which means I spend my days solving other people's problems while my own life apparently falls apart without me noticing. In this God-forsaken city, you can get mugged 3 ways before breakfast, but it's the mugging at home that really hurts. I rolled out of bed quietly, padding downstairs to my home office. The house felt different now, like everything familiar had shifted slightly to the left. Mara's reading glasses on the kitchen counter, her yoga mat by the door, her coffee mug in the sink, all suddenly felt like evidence of a stranger living in my home. Love is blind, but my bank account isn't, and looking back, the signs were everywhere. The late client meetings that started 3 months ago, the new gym membership she never used to talk about, the way she'd flip her phone face down whenever I entered a room, like I was some kind of corporate spy instead of her husband of 2 decades. Our son Eli, 14 and sharper than both his parents combined, had been asking me lately if everything was okay. "You and Mom seem weird," he'd said just last week, not looking up from his gaming setup. Kids see everything, even when they pretend they don't. I spent the rest of that night doing what I do best, digging through digital breadcrumbs. Mara wasn't particularly careful about her digital footprint. Her laptop was still logged into everything, and her iCloud backup told a story she probably thought was safely buried. Trent Voss, 41 years old, fitness influencer with 30,000 Instagram followers, married to Andrea for 15 years. His profile was exactly what you'd expect. Shirtless gym selfies, motivational quotes about grinding and crushing goals, and enough protein powder sponsorships to choke a horse. The kind of guy who calls everyone bro unironically and thinks a backwards baseball cap counts as formal wear. The messages between Mara and Trent were illuminating and disgusting. I won't repeat the details, but let's just say my wife had developed quite the vocabulary for describing activities that definitely weren't covered in her real estate continuing education courses. But here's what really burned. It wasn't just the affair. It was the contempt. Message after message mocking me, laughing about how clueless I was, how easy it was to fool the computer nerd. Trent called me the Walking Dead in one particularly charming exchange. Mara's response, "At least zombies moan." Charlie just sighs and fixes the WIFI. By morning, I had a decision to make. I could confront them directly, demand explanations, maybe suggest counseling like some pathetic sitcom husband. Or I could do what I do best. Solve the problem systematically, methodically, and with just enough creativity to make it memorable. I chose option 2. The next evening was Mara's birthday dinner at Marcello's, the upscale Italian place downtown, where they charge $28 for pasta that comes from the same box as the stuff at home. Mara had invited her usual crew, Bianca, Lana, and Sam, 3 women who'd perfected the art of passive-aggressive friendship into something approaching performance art. Bianca was the ringleader, a 40-something gossip queen who treated other people's secrets like currency. She'd been divorced 3 times and seemed determined to help everyone else achieve the same milestone. Lana was the enabler, always ready with a drink and an excuse for whatever terrible idea was being proposed. Sam was supposed to be the comic relief, but her idea of humor usually involved making someone else the punchline. And of course, Trent was there. Because apparently, my wife's birthday dinner was the perfect place to parade her boy toy in front of her oblivious husband. "Charlie!" Bianca practically shrieked when I arrived. "We were just talking about you." "Nothing good, I hope," I replied, settling into my chair. "I'd hate to ruin my reputation." The table laughed, but it was that polite, uncomfortable laughter that happens when people aren't sure if you're in on the joke or if you are the joke. Based on the phone messages I'd read, I was definitely the joke. Trent sat directly across from me, all teeth and fake tan and cologne that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. He kept touching Mara's arm when he talked, little casual contacts that were supposed to look friendly, but felt about as subtle as a neon sign. "So, Charlie," he said, leaning back in his chair like he owned the place, "Mara tells me you're in computers." "That's cool, man. I'm more of a physical fitness guy myself, but we need all types, right?" "Absolutely," I agreed. Someone has to fix the technology while other people are busy exercising. The pause before exercising was just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Good. Dinner proceeded with the usual small talk and social posturing. Mara's friends took turns excluding me from conversations, sharing inside jokes that weren't quite as inside as they thought. I smiled and nodded and made appropriate responses while mentally composing the message that would change everything. The moment came during dessert, when Bianca raised her wine glass for a toast. "To Mara," she announced with theatrical flourish, who somehow manages to put up with everything. The emphasis on everything was unmistakable. The glances around the table were knowing. The barely suppressed giggles were infuriating. I pulled out my phone. "That's so sweet, Bianca," I said, typing rapidly. "You're absolutely right. Mara has put up with a lot. We all have." I hit send on the message I'd prepared for their group chat, the one I'd discovered they used to coordinate their little conspiracy. The message that included screenshots of Bianca's secret OnlyFans account, documentation of Lana's recent DWI that she'd been hiding from her husband, Sam's love letters to my wife. Apparently I wasn't the only marriage she was trying to sabotage, and of course, the crown jewel. High-resolution photos of Trent and Mara in compromising positions, courtesy of the private investigator I'd hired that morning. 4 phones buzzed simultaneously around the table. The silence that followed was beautiful, pure, crystalline, perfect silence, as 4 people realized their entire social ecosystem had just been nuked from orbit. Bianca went white. Lana started hyperventilating. Sam looked like she was going to vomit. Trent's fake tan somehow managed to get faker. "What?" Mara started, but her voice died as she read her phone. "Oh," I said cheerfully. "Did I forget to mention?" "I know about everything. The affair, the group chat where you all mock me, the little jokes about poor, clueless Charlie. I even know about the real estate deal you were planning to screw me out of, Trent. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out why you were suddenly so interested in my wife right when your gym needed to expand into commercial property?" That's right. The affair wasn't just about sex and midlife crisis. It was about money. Trent needed to expand his gym empire, and Mara had access to prime commercial real estate through her agency. The plan was to manipulate me into selling our building at below market value, with Mara taking a hefty commission and Trent getting his expansion space for cheap. The affair was just the cherry on top of their little business arrangement. "Charlie, please," Mara whispered, but I was just getting started. "The best part?" I continued. "I've already sent copies to Andrea, to your boss at the real estate agency, to the gym's board of directors, and to about 50 of your mutual friends and clients. Oh, and I posted Trent's little rant about crushing married pussy on his Instagram story. His followers seem confused." Trent's phone was buzzing nonstop. Notification after notification as his carefully crafted influencer image crumbled in real time. "You psycho!" Bianca shrieked, standing up so fast she knocked over her wine glass. "You can't just destroy people's lives." "Funny," I replied. "That's exactly what I was thinking while I was reading months of messages about what a pathetic loser I am and how easy I was to fool." The restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners were staring. The staff looked uncomfortable. Perfect. "This isn't over," Trent snarled, finally finding his voice. "You have no idea who you're messing with." I laughed. Actually laughed, right there in the middle of Marcello's with red wine dripping onto white tablecloth and my marriage exploding in spectacular fashion. "Oh, Trent," I said, standing up and dropping $100 bill on the table. "This isn't the beginning. This is the end. And you're absolutely right. You have no idea who you were messing with." I walked out of that restaurant with my head high and my conscience clear. Behind me, I could hear chairs scraping, voices rising, and the beautiful sound of consequences finally catching up with people who thought they were untouchable. The next few days were a masterclass in systematic destruction. Andrea Voss, armed with evidence of her husband's infidelity and business fraud, filed for divorce and immediately froze all their joint accounts. She also happened to be friends with several members of the gym's board of directors, and Trent found himself voted out of his own business faster than you can say breach of fiduciary duty. Mara's real estate license was suspended pending investigation into her ethical violations. Apparently, using client relationships to facilitate personal affairs and business fraud is frowned upon in professional circles. Who knew? Bianca's husband discovered her OnlyFans account and her gambling debts on the same day. He filed for divorce number 4, and this time he kept the house. Lana's DWI became public knowledge, costing her the PTA presidency and her part-time job at the elementary school. Sam's husband learned about her romantic correspondence with my wife and decided he'd had enough of her girls' trips and book clubs that never seemed to involve any actual books. But I wasn't done yet. The following week, Trent made the mistake of showing up at my house. I was in the garage working on my motorcycle when I heard his truck pull into the driveway. Through the window, I watched him storm up to my front door and start pounding on it like some kind of caveman. "Charlie, get out here, you coward! We need to talk." I opened the garage door and stepped out, wiping grease off my hands with an old rag. "Hey there, Trent. Lose something? Your wife, your business, your dignity?" He turned around, and I could see he'd been drinking. His eyes were bloodshot, his usually perfect hair was a mess, and he smelled like a brewery. "You think you're so smart," he slurred. "You think you won something here?" "I think I solved a problem," I replied calmly. "Several problems, actually." "You destroyed my life." "No, Trent. I documented your choices. There's a difference." He took a step toward me, fists clenched. "I should beat the hell out of you right now." "You should probably think that through," I said, not moving. "See, I've got security cameras recording this conversation, and my neighbor Rick is right inside the house. You really want to add assault charges to your current list of problems?" As if on cue, Rick appeared in the doorway. 6'4" and built like a linebacker, he'd been my friend since college and had zero patience for bullies. "Everything okay out here, Charlie?" "Just fine, Rick." Trent was just leaving, but Trent was beyond rational thought. The alcohol, the humiliation, the complete destruction of everything he'd built. It had all combined into a perfect storm of stupid decisions. He swung at me. I stepped aside and let momentum carry him face first into my garage door. The metallic clang echoed through the neighborhood, followed immediately by Trent's howl of pain and rage. "That's going to leave a mark," I observed, as he staggered backward, blood streaming from his nose. "You son of a bitch!" He came at me again, but this time Rick was ready. One gentle shove sent Trent sprawling across my driveway, his designer workout clothes scraping against concrete. "Trent," I said, looking down at him, "let me give you some free advice. When you're in a hole, stop digging. You've lost everything you're going to lose to me. Don't make it worse by doing something that'll get you arrested." He struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is," Rick said quietly. "And if you come back here, we're calling the cops. Charlie's been more than patient with you." Trent looked back and forth between us, probably trying to calculate his odds. Even drunk and stupid, he could do that math. "You'll pay for this," he muttered, stumbling back toward his truck. "Already did," I called after him. "Cost me about $300 for the private investigator. Best money I ever spent." He drove away, weaving slightly, and I made a mental note to call the police about a possible drunk driver. Just being a good citizen. The final confrontation came 2 weeks later at Eli's school science fair. I was there supporting my son, who'd built an impressive robotics project despite everything going on at home. Eli had been staying with me since Mara moved out, and honestly, he seemed relieved to be away from the drama. "Dad," he said, adjusting his project display, "are you and Mom going to get divorced?" "Probably," I admitted. There was no point lying to him. "How do you feel about that?" He shrugged, but I could see the relief in his eyes. It's been pretty tense at home for a while. I kind of figured something was going to happen. "Are you okay with staying with me? Are you kidding? You actually talk to me instead of just texting all the time. And you make better pancakes. That's my boy." The science fair was going smoothly until Mara showed up with Trent in tow. Apparently, they'd decided to make their relationship public. Consequences be damned. They walked through the gymnasium like some kind of power couple, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed them. "Charlie." Mara approached our table with her chin up and her shoulders back, trying to project confidence she clearly didn't feel. "We need to talk." "Do we?" I asked, not looking up from Eli's robotics demonstration. "I thought we covered everything pretty thoroughly at your birthday dinner." "You can't keep Eli from me. I'm his mother. I'm not keeping him from you. He's choosing to stay with me. There's a difference." Trent stepped forward, trying to look intimidating despite the fading bruises on his face from his encounter with my garage door. "Look, man, we can work this out like adults." I finally looked up at him. "Adults don't sleep with other people's spouses, Trent. Adults don't lie and cheat and steal. Adults take responsibility for their actions instead of showing up drunk at people's houses." "That was a mistake." "No," I interrupted. "That was a choice. Just like sleeping with my wife was a choice. Just like trying to defraud me in your real estate scheme was a choice. You made a lot of choices, Trent. Now you get to live with the consequences." Other parents were starting to notice the commotion. "Perfect." "You think you're so innocent," Mara hissed. "You destroyed our friends. You ruined our marriage." "I documented your affair and your fraud," I said loudly enough for nearby parents to hear. "You destroyed our marriage the first time you decided to sleep with Captain Protein Powder here." The gymnasium was getting quieter as more people tuned into our conversation. I could see phones coming out, probably recording the whole thing. Even better. "This is ridiculous," Trent said. "Come on, Mara." "Let's go." But Mara wasn't done. 20 years of marriage, and she was going to end it right here in front of half the school district. "You want to know the truth, Charlie? I never loved you. Not really. You were safe, you were stable, but you were never exciting. You were never passionate. You were just there." The words hung in the air like smoke. Around us, parents and kids had stopped pretending not to listen. "You know what, Mara?" I said quietly. "You're absolutely right. I was safe. I was stable. I was faithful. I was honest. I was a good father and a decent husband. If that makes me boring, then I'm guilty as charged." I stood up, facing her directly. "But here's what I wasn't. I wasn't a liar. I wasn't a cheater. I wasn't someone who would betray 20 years of marriage for a few months of excitement with a discount Instagram influencer." Trent's face went red. "Hey, now!" "And I wasn't someone who would try to defraud my own spouse out of property and money to finance my boyfriend's failing business." That got a reaction from the crowd. Murmurs of shock and disapproval rippled through the gymnasium. "So yeah, Mara." I was boring, but I was also trustworthy. And right now, in front of all these people, which one of us do you think looks better? She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. What could she say? The evidence was overwhelming, the witnesses were everywhere, and her reputation in this community was already destroyed. "Come on," Trent muttered, grabbing her arm. "This is pointless." As they walked away, I heard someone behind me say, "Can you believe those two? At a school function?" Another voice replied, I heard he lost his business over this whole thing. And she got fired too. Good, said a third voice. People like that shouldn't be around kids. Eli looked up at me from his robotics project. Dad? Yeah, son. You're not boring. You're just reliable. That's not a bad thing. I ruffled his hair. Thanks, buddy. Now tell me more about this robot. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Mara got a small settlement and limited visitation rights. Trent's gym empire collapsed completely when several other business partners discovered his fraudulent practices. He moved to another state, presumably to start over with a new identity and a new set of victims. Bianca, Lana, and Sam all went their separate ways after their own marriages imploded. Funny how quickly a friend group can dissolve when the foundation is built on gossip and betrayal instead of actual friendship. As for me, I kept the house, got primary custody of Eli, and started dating a nice woman named Jennifer who works at the library and thinks computer repair is actually kind of interesting. She laughs at my jokes, treats my son well, and has never once suggested that I need to be more exciting. 6 months after the divorce was final, I ran into Andrea Voss at the grocery store. She'd taken back her maiden name and looked genuinely happy for the first time since I'd known her. Charlie, she said, smiling. How are you doing? Can't complain, I replied. How about you? Much better. I wanted to thank you, actually. For what? For that text message. For showing me who my husband really was. I wasted 15 years on that man, but at least I didn't waste 20. I'm sorry it had to happen that way. Don't be, she said firmly. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt worse. You did the right thing. As I drove home that day, I reflected on everything that had happened. Some people might say I went too far, that I was vindictive or cruel. But here's the thing. I didn't make Mara cheat. I didn't make Trent lie. I didn't make their friends enablers and accomplices. All I did was turn on the lights. In the end, that's all revenge really is. Illumination. Shining a bright light on people's choices and letting them face the consequences. The rest takes care of itself. That night, as I tucked Eli into bed, he asked me one more question. Dad, do you think Mom will ever apologize? I considered my answer carefully. I don't know, son. But it doesn't matter. We don't need her apology to move on with our lives. Good, he said, because I like our life better now anyway. Me too, kid. Me too. Some stories end with reconciliation, forgiveness, and lessons learned. This isn't one of those stories. This is a story about consequences, about the price of betrayal, and about the satisfaction that comes from watching people get exactly what they deserve. Mara and Trent thought they were smarter than everyone else. They thought they could lie and cheat and steal without anyone noticing. They thought I was just some boring computer nerd who would never fight back. They were wrong. And that, as they say, was their last mistake.